folks. What happened? That was our outgo.
No, it just, I had it started at a different place. I thought that was the volume control, so
Okay, yeah.
I had the volume at half. But hey, it's working now. This is Jimmy Doane Show, everybody. That means it's 4 o'clock on Sunday or Wednesday. Today happens to be Sunday. We are dodging the storm here in Florida, at least for now. Now I probably just did it there, huh?
Yeah, right. Thank you. Oh, now the fix is in. That's right. That's you've done it now. You jinxed us.
That's right. Anyway, it's September 1st, 2019. I'll post a copy of the show up with all the subject timestamp on YouTube. You can find us on audio format all over the web, various places. Look for the Jimmy Doane Show or just Jimmy Doane, D-O-A-N-E. Glad you could join us. And what is happening?
What is happening?
Mm-hmm.
Want to say hello to Kenny, who sent me a nice note.
Hey, Cousin Kenny.
Yep.
What's happening?
So anyway, yeah, okay. Well, what's happening is, guess what? What do you think the news is?
Trump
this
did
is
something.
This is here in Florida.
Trump called
okay?
the hurricane.
Yeah. Well, it's funny because what I did am laughing about. Fortunately, it does look like, although it hasn't turned yet, but it does look like it's going to turn up north and and essentially miss us.
Yeah. Well.
But it hasn't turned yet. It's now, as we speak, it's pounding the crap of 150 mile an hour winds in Bahamas.
Yeah. Well, I have a great live shot of the Bahamas as well. But look at these two graphs from the models, the computer models from before. Let me just see if I can pull them up real quick. Oh, well, here's. Okay, so this is the old model.
Look at that. That was going to nail us.
Right.
Yeah, that was
every single one.
Except there's that one there that's.
Well, there's a couple that go over here to the right, but and then now the image is. Way different. I don't know why it's not organized by name, but
way to go.
Mm-hmm.
Way to have dead air.
Yeah, exactly.
Well, the one thing that is happening that's kind of fascinating is Mrs. Jimmy has glommed onto and has solidified, has put the Weather Channel on permanent and locked the remote so that nobody can change the channel. And she's expecting, as near as I can tell, she's expecting, it's moving like at 13 miles an hour, and it's, I don't know, what, 200 miles away?
Well, it's days away.
Yeah, well, today's Sunday. They're talking about Tuesday or Wednesday.
Wednesday for us, if it comes anywhere near.
If it does, yeah. And of course, the way it looks when you look at the cone, the cone of silence, no, the cone of wind, it does look like here in the center of the state, we might not be hit too bad. But if you're up in North Carolina or something, Cape Hatteras or something, boy, according to the latest ones, which of course could completely change by Wednesday or Thursday. The good news is, of course, that it should be all out of here unless it turns around and comes back. It should be all out of here by the weekend, which is game day for us, and where you get to park some cars and make some money. But I just thought it was interesting. Okay, so. I thought the one thing I do have with Trump today was that apparently he has decided to diss completely Fox News.
Well,
you could see it coming when Donna Brazile was hired on there, and Juan Williams and some other people that were not. I mean, Donna Brazile especially. I mean, she's an anti-Trumper. You know that.
Sure.
And so now they're having, and apparently this guy Shepard, what's his name?
Shepard Smith.
Shepard Smith. Yeah, he apparently has good news and bad news, but a lot of bad news and so forth.
He's actually, among the Fox people, done a better job of having both sides.
Yeah,
reporting.
yeah. I got the impression. I don't watch it, but I got the impression that he's more balanced.
Look, I think we concluded a long time ago, rightly so, that the mainstream media, every major media outlet that had a legitimate news source, has veered off into the extreme, into sensationalism, and they've all become the National Enquirer. And it's because I think the audience exploded, and there was just a money grab. It was, now it's your time. You can make $1 jillion.
As I said one time before, it was a loose football.
Yeah.
And they're all scrambling for it.
Yeah,
because,
that's the advertising dollars, the new advertising dollars. So.
But I mean, you look at somebody during the Russia times. Rachel Maddow was on there, and a couple of the others were. That's all it was. It was 30 minutes or however.
Well, she's she's an opinion journalist from the beginning anyway. So, I mean, those people. It's just, to me, it's just like having an influencer on YouTube or Facebook or something. This is just some person's opinion of the whole situation.
Yeah. Well, in spite of...
Or just whatever they can whip up, the other
That's the thing. I mean, the one that was the most famous one, of course, was when she had an announcement at 3 o'clock in the afternoon. Watch my show tonight. We've got Trump's tax returns.
Oh, right. Yeah.
And they were announcing that like every hour. Well, of course, then people tuned in. And at the very beginning of the show, stay tuned. We're going to have some information for you. You went through 5 ads. News. We got a break. Take a break now. When we come back, we're going to. And they don't talk. And finally, right at the end, it turned out it was 2015. One page of 2015 taxes. And I mean, everybody's
like, this is the Geraldo's vault.
Vault. Yeah. Right. Well, with all due respect, he didn't know what was in the vault.
Yeah, that's true.
I mean, he was. It could have been anything, right?
And if it had been anything,
he would have been a hero.
Yeah.
Yeah, but she'd already.
Unfortunately, it was crap.
Yeah, it was crap.
Like,
wasn't even that. Yeah.
Yeah, and a few broken bottles that he had to sit there and go, were they drinking these bottles?
Yeah, right. What was the? That's what. So anyway, he was all upset with them, and I don't know what they're going to do, but it apparently. So there was one wag that said this is a faux anger at Fox. Trump, he still likes him, but he decided to blow up at him or something.
Yeah, well, I mean, I think we know he speaks off the cuff all the time.
Oh, he does.
So,
yeah, that's for sure.
I saw a Trump story this week that was sort of minor, but they sort of blamed it on him. And my my skills are getting worse and worse for this show. I guess I'll find it later.
Okay. So the next thing I've got here is also had to do with the hurricane. There was panic all over Florida. I mean, panic. And I think we might have mentioned it last time, but it really got to be bad. There was something like, down in South Florida, for instance, there was something like 66% of the gas stations were out of gas. There were the shelves of the stores like Costco and Walmart were virtually empty. Looked like Venezuela does every day. I mean, no bread, no water, and I saw pictures of people literally walking out. Now, our governor had said, you probably need to stock up just to be sure of about 5 days worth of stuff, and of course.
Well, this is good. Now everybody gets to have the I survived Hurricane Dorian party afterwards and drink all the wine and eat all the junk food that they bought to survive the non-event. But this is what we do. We stock up once a year. Everybody got their gas and everything pretty quickly. I noticed, like you said, gas was out on Friday here. And the storm is still a few days away.
Right.
I'm sure they've got it refilled now. I noticed our Publix is jammed to the gills with water at this point.
Oh, is that right?
Yeah, they're stacked up at the door, basically.
They would be, of course.
Yeah.
And that's the thing about it is, give it a rest, people. And it was interesting because I filled up like on Monday, I mean, a week ago. Mm-hmm. And you know what? And actually, there were some people in line. There was a couple people, but I don't drive that much, so I think I've driven 5 miles since Monday, so I still got plenty.
Well, look, if to me this is all fine. If we would let the market play, that is to say, unfortunately they jump in and they stop people from gouging.
This is what I was just going to say. Jimmy is well stocked with necessities, but should I need something in the pinch, I sure hope the price gougers will be around, doing their socially and economically responsible work. When there's a sudden spike in demand for a good and supply hasn't had time to adjust prices rise, and thank goodness. And it's just, this price gouging, to me, it is so obvious on its face that you raise the price when there's a sudden shortage, and that way you weed out the people that, I mean, I saw people, leaving Walmart or whatever, stacked with, I mean, they'd spent 2 weeks budget on water and bread and stuff like that, and bread's not going to keep forever, I don't care who you are. And
well, it's like you say, the price, the rise allows the most efficient allocation of the resources,
right?
Because it prevents people who don't really need it from stocking up because the price is too high for them.
Well, I remember the first time I saw this was in the 70s. The first Arab embargo before the big one in 78, but in 73 we had one, I think. And it was interesting because down in St. Petersburg especially, the old farts down there, of course this is when everybody had a huge Lincoln or Cadillac. These were the big V8 days that were getting 8, 10, 12 miles to the gallon. And so what they would do, as soon as the needle budged off of full, they would run in and fill up, and they would eat up that space for 4 gallons or something. And you're sitting there thinking, why don't you wait till you really need it? So anyway, that's why all the lines were there, because these people were, in their walkers, were worried that they might run out of gas, and they weren't going anywhere anyway. So anyway, it's just. So anyway, it says if the price of water stayed the same, they might consider washing their kitchen counter with it. But if the price is allowed to rise, they might only use it for something like, I don't know, drinking instead of whatever it is. So the other thing is, of course, I don't know if I mentioned this last time, but Kim Campbell, do you know who she is?
Kim Campbell, no.
She's a former former Prime Minister of Canada.
Okay.
And she said, when you're former Prime Minister of Canada, normally people, if they're out of office and have been in office, they a little tone things down. You don't generally, presidents until Obama basically don't monkey with the people that came after them. You never hear Bush talk about it anyway. You never heard Reagan. You never heard these people talk about.
Well, everything is getting more and more political.
Right. Well, of course, now Obama has started.
Is this the Prime Minister person?
Yes, this is the Prime Minister, and she said, I'm rooting for a direct hit on Mar-a-Lago. And August 20th, she did delete the tweet, and then because it had huge backlash. I mean, everybody's saying, what are you talking about? Because it was actually headed at one time.
So she's a former Prime Minister of Canada, and she just made her...
And decided that she's a Trump
she's a
hater,
former...
TDS, whatever, and she just, Trump derangement syndrome, for some reason, she was praying that Mar-a-Lago would get smacked to the ground. You sit there and you think, well, but it's tongue in cheek. That's low.
It's tongue in cheek. Obviously, she doesn't wish anybody to die. Somebody's got to get hit over there, and so you get to pick your spot if you're going to say something.
I suppose.
Whatever. Look, it was a little bit careless maybe to say, but again, she's the former Prime Minister, so
right.
Now, one thing I saw, which this is the political thing I just remembered, and that was we had our former Fed chairman come out and say against Trump.
Oh yeah.
That the Fed should tank the economy now in order to prevent Trump from effecting his will in the next cycle. That is, that he urged the Fed to.
Was this the girl?
I don't remember. I don't think so. I think it was with
the one before the girl.
Yeah,
Bernanke, or who was the Fed chairman before that?
Well, no, I don't know if it was a chairman or if it was a president of one of the local Fed reserve banks.
Right, one of the 12. Yeah,
exactly. So it wasn't one of the main names that you would know. Because I know all those people. I didn't recognize the guy's name.
Let me tell you though.
Okay.
Good news and bad news. That might have been just the right thing to do, but for the wrong reason. If we have, as with Volcker in 1980, if suddenly the interest rates were to spike up to 20% and weed out all the crap and get rid of the speculators and everything, they go broke.
Yeah.
And a lot of there's a rearrangement and get back to the market system, and that's what has to happen. That
Yeah.
has to happen sometime.
Yeah.
And so,
But he wasn't saying it for that reason.
I know that.
Yeah.
I know that. That's my point.
Yeah.
He didn't know.
No.
And
That is the right advice.
It was the right solution but he didn't understand what the real problem is.
Right. Well, my point is, in answer to both of those situations, is this is why the Austrian school is better than the Chicago school. It's because the Austrians do not like monetary policy to be in the hands of any government entity.
Right.
And you can call them independent if you want, but they're not.
They're not.
They're just not. And so they're like another tiny political branch that has this major influence over one side of every single contract that's denominated in dollars, which is a ridiculous responsibility for a human to have. You don't want any single person or a committee or anybody to have that type of responsibility, because we're just too prone to mistakes. People make
They're
errors.
going to make mistakes.
And that doesn't even count deception or fraud or any other type of bribery, anything like that. Humans, if it's too big for the free market, then it's too big
for a committee. Yeah, and you hit the nail on the head in that there are 7.5 billion people on the planet, and they all have inputs, and there's 320 million here in the United States.
And there's a billion contracts designated in the U.S.
And we're talking about stuff that changes virtually minute by minute. And these guys are going to make some broad, well, we're going to raise the interest rate by 1/4 of a point today.
And they operate by deception, because they come out and will not admit their various reasons for doing things, and the reasons they won't admit, they will say, is because if we announce what we're doing, it will skew the markets. It will change things.
Right. Well, this is the old Heisenberg principle.
Yes. Well, it's
and so to speak. In other words, if we announce it, then by definition, it's going to change.
Right. Well, I mean, that's. But to me, it's going to change anyway, because people are going to see what they're doing. They're going to figure it out, and just their whole plan is a shambles at this point. So we'll see.
What I don't quite understand is how they can look back. I mean, they're old enough. They're my age and that kind of stuff. They can look back for the last 50 or so and then read up on the history of the Federal Reserve since 1913 and realize that they've never been right. They've never gotten it right, not once.
Well, I can tell you, I can answer that question. They can, you can just simply point around and say, look at how wealthy the United States is. Look at how awesome we are, all this great stuff we have. And if you don't look at the unfunded liabilities or the debt, then by golly, it looks great. I mean, 1/2 of the balance sheet is awesome.
Yeah.
So that's what they point to.
Well,
what they say is that 1/2 of the balance sheet would suck if we hadn't done all that stuff.
Yeah,
if we hadn't managed the economy.
Right. Yeah. See, we saved you. But who's to know? I mean, I was when they said that we had to save it. I was reminded of the guy that went into Vietnam and said we had to destroy the village in order to save it.
Well, they don't even think that they're destroying the
No,
village.
I know they don't.
But yeah, you're right.
Serious medicine.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, of course, along the same thing when we're talking about hurricanes and weather, and I wanted to say something about this. Another draft UN report. We've talked about the IPCC before.
Yeah.
They have another one. Okay, these are clowns. Okay, these guys are, and to think that people actually look at this and think that there's some meat here. The same oceans that nourished human evolution are poised to unleash misery on a global scale unless the carbon pollution destabilizing Earth's marine environment is brought to heel, warns the draft report. Destructive changes already set in motion, some irreversible, could see steady decline in fish stocks and a 100-fold or more increase in the damages caused by superstorms. Witness out there, okay, and hundreds of millions of people displaced by rising seas, according to the IPCC special report on oceans and everything known as the cryosphere, whatever the hell that is. Without deep cuts in man-made emissions, at least 30% of the northern hemisphere surface permafrost could melt by century's end, unleashing billions of tons of carbon and accelerating global warming even more. So these guys have come out, and you're wondering if this is scary, you know.
Yeah, no, that's interesting because it's scary rhetoric, but I have read several of the prior IPCC reports.
Oh, really?
Yes.
Oh.
And you can pull up the summary online, and they've got nice summaries, and then there's a 200-page report or something in there. Now, when you read into the scientific reporting of it all, it was exactly what you would expect. They estimate probabilities of things, and they give you these wide ranges of potential. See the hurricane spaghetti.
Right, exactly.
Things. They're all over the map, okay, but there's a range. And so then, interestingly, the rhetoric, though, talks about the worst case scenario. Right. Because if you really read into the IPCC report, it talks about moderate probabilities for these things. And the last one that I saw had the worst estimates of sea level rise in the 2-meter range by the end of the century. And by any normal estimate, I mean, you can go to NASA, anybody can go to the NASA website and pull up the sea level rise right now, and it shows 3.3 millimeters per year. Millimeters. So you extrapolate that over the next 80 years.
How do you even measure that? I mean, the tide is...
Well, exactly.
Millimeters?
Exactly. It's incredibly small. So, you know they're relying on some established group of measurements, whatever they are. But even taking those measurements at their face value, even if you said, I believe all of that, everything they said, 30.3 millimeters over the next 80 years is 1 foot.
Yeah.
It's 1 foot. And it's consistent. If you extrapolate backwards in time, and sea level was 10,000 years ago, sea level was 400 feet below where it is today.
Yeah.
Okay, it didn't get there all at once.
Nope.
It's rising at roughly the same level that it has for the last 10,000 years. Now, we've talked about there were a couple of times, 15,000, 16,000 years ago, when there were sharp sea level rises, but we're nowhere near those levels. They were probably associated with some cataclysmic event, an asteroid or a super volcano or something like that we just haven't pinpointed yet.
Some really big whales took up some of the space.
But you can't just melt a third of the cryosphere, which is, of course, the frozen area around the North Pole. It would take, I've seen estimates that say it would take thousands of years to melt the ice on Greenland. Now, there's no way that estimate is going to go from thousands to tens of years. I mean, it could go to hundreds, right? But it's not going to tens unless there's something different happening that we have not seen in any of the measurements anywhere.
Well, again, one of the things that looks at this, and they've been doing it for a year, when you realize that the computer that sent the astronauts to the moon, my watch is more powerful than that.
Yeah.
I mean, seriously, my watch. Now, you've got computers today that are 1,000,000 times more powerful than my watch. I mean, these are the ones that actually do. They're water-cooled, huge, multi-processor. They take up a whole room.
They're sucking the power.
And they're saying, and when the Hoover Dam goes, when you feed the information into it and everything, and these things can't project this hurricane a day out. Not now. You say, well, that's weather and other things, climate. Okay.
Well, they got it for a day, but they didn't get it for 5 days.
They damn sure didn't.
No.
Well, look, if you look right now, seriously, if you look right now at the cone, they've got a line in the middle, but that cone is 500-600 miles wide.
Yeah.
So don't, and that's for 4 days out. Now, this is the giant monster computer. This is the one that it's
the Whopper.
It does the life, the universe, and everything. It's
Watson.
The answer. It's 5 Watsons all strung together, and then it's deep throat, whatever, deep talk, whatever, and all that kind of stuff. A whole barn full of computer all clicking away and figuring it out and can't get it. And so
many variables.
I know, but what I'm saying is that's the same thing with the market. The fact is that the Fed is dealing with literally untold 1 trillion variables, and they're coming up with one number. Now, this is good if you happen to be one of my favorite shows is Moneyball. Moneyball was what's his name?
Brad Pitt.
Brad Pitt, yeah, and the other guy.
Jonah Hill.
Jonah Hill, right. Great. And of course, they showed his spreadsheet and everything, and he says, well, you boil it down, all this down to one number. Does he get on base? And I just thought this was great.
Well, still, the number of variables.
But that's baseball,
right?
And you're saying, and those, and let me tell you, those are not statistics. That's data. That's actual data.
Right.
So when they call about a baseball player's stats, no, it's not statistics. There's no estimation here.
Right.
He got on base exactly that many times. So,
Yeah.
So anyway, the deal is, when you're dealing with this kind of stuff, to think that anybody actually even believes any of this stuff, it's insanity.
Well, like you said, it works for a couple of days out. It saves lives for a couple of days out. But 100 years? No.
No. Well, not only that, when you think about it, you say it saves lives. It's interesting. What you do find, of course, is the monster scare in South Florida that cleaned out all the gas stations and the bread places.
What's the worst that happens?
No, I know. It's not that bad. But, there's some people that, I'm going to talk about this in a minute. There's some people that are inconvenienced. And
sure, but look, you can't argue against weather prediction, Doppler radar. These are fantastic inventions and tools that have saved. This will save everybody. It's allow people to live on the coast with security and not have to worry about it because they know they're going to get warning 5 days in advance.
Right.
And look, most Floridians are prepared. They've got the extra gas. We just went and got extra gas.
Yeah, right.
At this point, and if you don't have it, your neighbor's got it. It's like nobody's. This is
you're not taking my gas.
Right. 30, 40 years ago in St. Augustine, it was much more rural than it is today.
Yeah.
So.
Well, okay. So now, speaking of warming and climate change, how Russia and China are preparing to exploit a warming planet. I think we might have mentioned this one time before. Hurricanes, floods, and wildfires aside, climate change is delivering another threat, a remaking of the geopolitics that stands to empower some of America's adversaries and rivals. And of course, what this has to do is up north as the ice melts up there and the sea lanes become open, Russia stands to gain access to oil and gas fields historically locked beneath the northern ice, and building up a capability to launch cruise missiles from newly navigable waters and threaten America. Right away, military problems. And as polar seaways open up, China is eyeing a new polar Silk Road, they call it, shorter shipping rates that could cut weeks off of shipping from Asia to Europe. And as the drought drives more farmers and herders off their lands, extremist groups in Africa and the Middle East are finding fresh recruits. I guess that's for the people that are going to chop everybody's head off. But anyway, since there are thought to be vast stores of fossil fuels, gas, and minerals across the Arctic that have not been tapped. And so Russia and China are getting together to try and run up there. Russia they have built some, apparently are building 40 different icebreakers. Now, if you've ever seen I'm not sure if the waters are all open up. I don't know why they're going to need icebreakers, but I guess they're still going to be freezing in the wintertime. But it's interesting to me. Have you ever seen on one of the documentaries on icebreakers they're really, it's unbelievable. How icebreakers used to be and how they've come, and there was at least one expedition that was in there in a wooden ship and got caught in the ice, and of course the ice crushed the ship, and these people I think it was a walk home or they didn't make it or something, but the bottom line is that apparently Russia at least has decided they're going to have 40 icebreakers up there for some reason, so that'll be interesting.
Well, they've been predicting and talking about that opening of those lanes for quite some time, and I think they'll continue to open up, and we'll see. It's cyclical, obviously, but there's something to be gained up there. There's a little.
Well, of course, especially if
get Greenland.
Yeah, no, I'm saying get Greenland. I'm with you on that. But one of the things, at least the Obamas are not worried about the sea rise, as we talked about.
Yeah.
As they bought $15 million worth on oceanfront property up there, so that's really great. Okay, we're talking about the next debate.
Okay.
10 are making it, and there's a little rivalry here going on. There's some people that are a little upset
Tulsi seems to be the short end of the stick person.
She really, yeah, she's really...
Is Marianne Williamson still in it?
No, she's gone.
She dropped out?
Yeah, she dropped out.
Okay.
Yeah, I think her rocks told her something.
Yeah,
The crystal. She had a little crystal, gazing crystal thing.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, I know, she's gone. They said that Tom Steyer, Michael Bennett, Tulsi Gabbard, Marianne Williamson, Steve Bullock, well, maybe, I don't know, Steve Bullock, Bill de Blasio, Tim Ryan, and John Delaney, and Joe Seastack will not be there on September 12th. So it's only going to be one night this time, I guess, with 10 people up there. But what a
the short form is still a circus.
Oh yeah.
Now some of them have gone, like Bernie and Tulsi went on Joe Rogan's podcast.
Oh yeah, okay.
So you can watch. Now Tulsi stayed on for the full 3 hours. I think.
Really?
Yeah.
I did not know that.
And that's where I first learned about her. Her views and Bernie was only on for 1 hour. He didn't really get challenged a lot.
Yeah.
We talked about it. So I'm sure he's trying to have all the other candidates. He had on Yang too, I think.
Yes, he did.
And
he had Yang one.
So we'll see if he gets.
They're getting their thing, but Yang, I guess, is Yang going to be in the? Yeah, he's going to be in the talk. He's going to be one. I guess he got his thing. The candidates needed donations from 130,000 different people and have secured 2% in at least 4 qualifying opinion polls. So that's, I guess they did it. And they tried every trick in the world to, you donate $1, now the candidates also, one of a seminal thing that has cropped up recently that I find really interesting, because I talked about this literally, I guess right after 9/11, I talked about this, and that is when they had the war on terror. This is something that is never going to end, because because you can't bomb terror. I mean, the fact is they're all over the place. It's not a country, and so here it is. Candidates propose expanding the war on terror to the real threat: white supremacists.
Oh yeah, shit.
White supremacist violence is on the rise. Before an attack in El Paso, Texas, in a Walmart that left 22 mostly Latin shoppers dead. Under the Patriot Act, domestic terrorism is defined as an act, quote, dangerous to human life.
This is just an effort by some racist people. At the end of the day.
Yeah.
And I hear him. I heard this financial guy talking, and I was on board with everything he's saying. And then at the end of his thing, 15 minutes, he goes, but black, brown, yellow, red, and other people are being attacked in the United States. Like, he named every color except for white. Mm-hmm. So we know who's doing the attacking, apparently. Right. And this is the same kind of thing. Like, look, man, there's groups out there who want to pit us against each other.
Right.
That's to me.
And of course, what you do, as we've talked about before, everything you do, unfortunately, it's gotten quite old, and that's racism. Every time, for a while, it was Russia. No matter what it was Russia. Then the New York Times now has decided that racism is the new key word. What you do is you're going to tie this into racism. Doesn't matter what happens. I'm sorry, you rescued the little dog out of the tree, but it was a white dog. Racist.
That's right. But they got busted for that. With
I know
the whole narrative thing. I don't know how long they're going to try to keep it going, because it's really out of hand at this point. I mean, with like they said, this terrorism thing, like, you're going to designate terror. I mean, I'm still yet to see more than a handful of KKK people ever. And then you see, like, this white pride parade that they had this last week, yesterday.
Was it Portland?
No, I think it was New York.
Okay.
Or Boston. That's where
Boston,
it was. Okay.
And
so, and Milo, the gay guy, is the chairman or whatever. And yet, at the end of the day, what happens? A lefty group comes out and attacks the police. And so before it's all over, the pride people go home, and anti-First Amendment people come out and basically taunt the police, and then there's tear gas and everything. They formed a line. So, I mean, look, it's clear who's the violent people in this.
Well, what's interesting to me is, why didn't the police just go home?
Well, they blocked a street.
Yeah, okay.
They blocked a street, and it's like, well, at some point, what are you going to do? You're going to go out there and shut it down. I mean,
I suppose.
You can't let it just continue indefinitely. And
the FBI considers crimes committed in furtherance of racially motivated violent extremism, anti-government / anti-authority extremism, animal rights / environmental extremism and abortion extremism as domestic terrorist threats. That's the FBI.
Yeah, you see, that's insanity. And the premise of the article is this one mass killer is a white supremacist. Therefore, white supremacists are a problem. No. You don't understand.
It's a whack job.
Exactly. And there's plenty of white supremacists out there who are sitting there playing Dungeons and Dragons in their mom's basement. They're not going to hurt anybody.
Right.
So it's just the fact that this one guy got a hold of a gun, did whatever, doesn't prove anything. That's the Hitler dog argument again.
You're right.
So.
Oh Lord. Okay.
Yeah, but and now meanwhile, and if we could take the time, I mean, this also dovetails right into the real protests that are going on right now, which is in Hong Kong.
Right.
And
I brought nothing on Hong Kong.
Well, I'm loaded for bear on Hong Kong.
Okay, well you started with...
I went...
Excuse me.
Did a little research. And now, of course, I figure our listeners are pretty well educated on Hong Kong. Everybody knows about the 99-year lease and all that arrangement. So I'll tell you the things I didn't know about Hong Kong, which is that the Brits actually controlled it for 50 years before that. They got a hold of it in 1840s. But they got a hold of a central portion of it, basically. Ah. Now, so Hong Kong, it describes like 3 different places, really, if you think about it. It's basically a giant city. Now it's giant. It's only 20 miles across, the whole thing. It's a little set of islands at the delta of a giant river system. It's kind of like New Orleans. It's the last city at the end of the delta. But it occupies, like I said, 400 square miles, a small area. There's 200 islands in the group. There's 5 main islands. One of the main islands is called Hong Kong Island.
Okay.
That's the southernmost, and then there's an across the bay metropolis from that little island, which constitutes the core of Hong Kong, and it's that portion that the Brits owned since the 1840s, and that portion was not part of the 99-year lease. In other words, they could have kept that. The Brits could have kept it for indefinitely. Instead, Thatcher and company turned over that portion as well with the other portion at the end of the 99-year lease in exchange for this 50-year extension of the 2 countries, or 1 country, 2 systems bullshit argument arrangement. And unfortunately, the Brits fell for it and they gave them the whole thing. And now I'm really afraid for the people of Hong Kong after learning about the whole situation, because it didn't take more than about 10 years for the Chinese to start really
eroding away there.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And the first thing they did is they did not move forward with suffrage. That is to say, they moved backwards with the election of the representatives for the
Yes,
people.
I remember that, yeah.
They did it in 2 ways. They make sure that the prime minister is basically chosen from among a group of people selected by China.
By the property, by the party.
The party, exactly. Yeah. And then the legislators are kept in check because certain seats are guaranteed to certain industry heads, and those industry heads have loyalty to the party as well. Right. So it turns out that the legislature in Hong Kong is now majority China favoring as well. So they're in a real pickle there. And there's only 7 million people or so in Hong Kong, right?
Really? I didn't know that.
Yeah. And so
more than that.
Well, there's the mega cities right across in China. There's a couple of mega cities that have sprung up with like twice that population. Now their GDPs are still only about the same as Hong Kong, but Hong Kong's has reduced in scale relative to China's over the last 20 years.
Have, yeah.
20 years ago, when the handover happened, they represented 25% of the total GDP of China.
Right.
Now it's down to 2 or 3.
Yeah, 3.4, I think, or something.
Okay, still, but it's relatively minor. But the bottom line is they have come out, the students, this whole thing is about the students people trying to reassert their rights under the old constitution that was left by the Brits. Specifically what they want are English-style judicial system. that is a separation of power, so that Beijing can't simply name people and disappear them like it's known to do.
Yeah.
And so they want that. They also wanted a suffrage type of arrangement so that they could vote for their rulers, basically. Right. And those are kind of their demands right now. They also want the whole situation now to be designated not as a riot. They want the people who've been arrested to be freed. Hong Kong or China, conversely, wants them to stop celebrating the Tiananmen Square massacre. They go out and do a big vigil every year for the Tiananmen Square massacre, and that's not allowed under Chinese authority. And also, they want to change the official language to Mandarin, and it's Cantonese right now. So they broadcast these days official state news in Mandarin.
Now, doesn't most of mainland China speak Mandarin?
It does.
Okay,
Yeah.
but Cantonese is primarily Hong Kong, huh?
Yeah, the different. It's like southern. It's different. It's more different than that. But basically, that's the area. The Cantonese is the area dialect.
Okay.
So, but the whole nub of it all is how much is China going to tolerate? And this is not a Western style government that has to treat its citizens with any sort of mercy.
Or they even care what the world thinks.
Well, exactly. I mean, they typically don't. And they didn't in 1987 or 9, whatever it was, the Tiananmen Square massacre. And they basically just mowed them down, and the world put a little slap on the wrist for a little while, and then it was over. And it looks like they are gearing up to do that again.
Yeah, I saw the pictures of the boy, they got their whole army out there.
They've massed a bunch of troops at the border now. They've gone in. Their protests you can see on Twitter, where you can see them just marching up and whacking people with sticks and stuff. And you wonder what now. There's 1 million plus people involved in this protest. Maybe 2 million.
Yeah.
There could be. I mean, who knows? And you can see it on the streets. It's amazing how big it is. Now the question is, are they going to be able to affect any civil disobedience that could theoretically disrupt the Chinese government in a serious way without subjecting themselves to being shot and killed and beaten in a way that would disrupt their protest? And I don't know that they can hold out against the Chinese government. I mean, I like what they're doing with the airport in terms of you cruise in there, you sit down, or you do whatever it is. It attracts a lot of international attention, and it disrupts the finances of the area. It's sort of a mega Occupy Wall Street type of.
Well, it's interesting to me. I know you were talking to us yesterday about when you were sitting in an airport, I guess in Tokyo or someplace, and the waves of people that were coming through. I mean, there's like waves of people there anyway. You get off the airplane.
Yeah.
I would imagine you have to wander through thousands of people just to get to your baggage.
Yeah, but apparently they jammed the whole airport.
Yeah, that's what I heard.
So I don't know what they're going to do. I don't know how it's going to turn out. October the 1st is the 70th year anniversary of the China
turnover.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Of CCCP, of the Chinese establishment of the Republic of China.
Oh, okay. Republic?
Yeah, it's
okay. I didn't.
Republic.
Oh, yeah.
Socialist Republic.
Yeah.
So it's going to be very interesting, but I'm afraid our poor you guys, you Hong Kongers, are going to be facing some serious. So some people are going to go down for the cause. So
some people are going to die.
Yeah, that's it. So good luck.
Yeah.
I just thought we'd report. We're gonna pay attention over here in the United States. We're going to do a lot of damage. Well, who knows?
We'll write him a letter. I think that it's interesting when I saw the documentary on when India started to become free of Britain.
Okay.
They did it peacefully, quote unquote, and what they would do is they would line up 5,000 people and just march and until the Brits wore their arms out beating them. And they just wore their arms out, and then they finally said, okay, you do it. That was the.
And of course, now the difference there being that the Brits didn't have the numbers, where
right.
the Chinese can put just more and more and more people
that's
in
true.
there.
Yeah, they put. Yeah, of course, the other thing when you say they put more and more, but you wonder it's still constrained. I mean, you can't put 2 million people in some of those alleys.
Yeah, they may have a nice strategic advantage. Hong Kong, most of the land area is uninhabitable.
I know that. I saw that.
It's rocky,
it is amazing.
mountainous.
Well, not only that is apparently it's the way they. Yeah, I saw the thing on that, and the government owns it all, and they parcel it out. I guess they lease it out. When you, that's why the prices are so high, because they lease when somebody wants to build a big tall building or something, they bid for the rights to build on there, and they get a 99-year lease or something from the government. Okay, moving along. We will keep up on that and find out. This is one of those things. I guess almost every day something different happens. Of course, you got to.
Maybe coming to a head October 1st. Or,
Yeah.
who knows? I mean,
Yeah,
something may
that's a
happen.
month away.
Mhm.
Biden, of course, once again, we love to hear from Biden. He says he would prefer a woman or a person of color as a running mate.
Right.
I have no idea why he suddenly waded into this thing, but I guess some black Democratic lawmakers have floated Senator Kamala Harris, who is Jamaican and Tamil Indian. I didn't know she was Tamil. Tamil, I mean, that's Indonesia type stuff, right?
I don't know.
Yeah, that's a big deal. There was a big revolution with the Tamil people, and they had massacres and everything. Anyway, she's one of those. Harris running against Biden for president, but they're talking about maybe, well, okay, now you can be, because Hillary, ran against Obama, but then she became Secretary of State. So
Right.
even though they hated each
I
other.
don't know. I got a feeling Biden may become somebody's vice presidential candidate again.
Really?
Yeah.
I don't think so. They also considered tapping Stacey Abrams. Now, give me a break.
I know.
Loser, and she still can't get over it, and I mean her mantra is voter suppression. That's been the problem, and she's going to go against voter
She
suppression.
lost by like 50,000.
Well, she said there were. She
Look,
said
she just checks a few of the boxes.
Yeah,
though.
she does. Yeah, that's the thing. They're checking. That's Biden's problem, is he didn't have any boxes to check.
Well, he's got two. He's got two boxes. One is he's the former vice president.
Okay.
And for a lot of people, that goes a long way. Just having been there the whole time, you saw it all. I mean, was it 8 years or 4?
8 years.
So I mean, man, that is a lot of security for a lot of people. And then the second one is decades and decades of other governmental experience. So.
Well,
I don't know. That's two. It could be just
1.5.
Yeah.
But the thing is, of course, a lot of people, they think this. A lot of people are saying what they said about Hillary was, well, it's or even McCain. It's time. Now we're going to put him in there because it's time.
Yeah, but the Democrats typically don't.
I know they don't. But that's one of the things. But I think that the politics of what do they call the politics of identity politics it could very well rule the day. Although
Yeah, well, we've been saying for a while, if he can get through the primaries, he may be okay. But I just didn't think.
Well, he's dropped from 34% to 20%. So
yeah, people are talking about his.
Okay, now the next thing that's a big deal. A man is charged after making a gun gesture with his finger.
Yeah.
And I saw the video.
Yeah, me too.
And he was walking down the street, and apparently this lady was out on her porch or something, and he goes like that.
Yeah. Well, I don't know if it was a lady he was doing it to.
Or it might have been a guy. I don't know. His lady reported him.
Yeah.
She was the one that said I think she was the one they interviewed.
Okay.
And maybe she was a neighbor. I don't know.
So yeah, maybe she was on recording the video.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, this is insanity. This is craziness. This should be overturned. He should appeal, and he should get overturned, because the standard that was articulated by the judge in the case is not the legal standard. And at least that's not the part of it. Now that may be just the part that was reported, but the legal standard was the person at the receiving end of the gesture in reasonable fear. And I think that any reasonable person would say no. Nobody is going to say that any reasonable person on the porch, wherever he was pointing to, that person cannot reasonably be in fear. As a judge, you would, if the jury found that person was reasonably in fear, you'd throw out the verdict. You'd say, no, you can't You can't be afraid of somebody pointing at you and doing that. You just can't.
Well, when you think
Because
about
if you do, then what about this?
right,
You know, or what if I do this?
yeah. Yeah.
You know,
no,
I mean,
well, that's not all.
There's just a jillion.
Well, the other thing, when you think about it, how many kids do you know that when they're out there playing? Now anymore, you can't use guns, but kids always do that.
He shot me with a bazooka.
That's
I
right,
could see
yeah.
it. It was in his arm. He went like this.
Well, the thing about it I thought it was interesting that the judge said, quote, serve no legitimate purpose and recklessly risk provoking a dangerous altercation.
See, those aren't standards. Those aren't standards.
I mean, the judge.
There is
what was
nothing.
this judge thinking?
Well, what probably that is. That was probably dicta. That was probably just some BS that the judge threw in, like at the end of his sentence. And there's
But he was
probably
convicted.
I know. Like I said, there must have been some legal language, some magic words in there. The judge must have said that the person who the guy was pointing at was reasonably in fear of an attack of some type. Because provocation doesn't mean anything. There is no provocation defense. There is no provocation defense in the United States. You can't say, they made me get angry. You
No.
can't.
Well,
That's why Antifa
Maria
is
McLaughlin is the judge.
on such
And she said, quote,
quicksand.
we conclude that there was sufficient, I like this, we conclude that there was sufficient evidence that Kirshner's act of mimicking his shooting, Mr. Klingenstein, created a hazardous condition. That was in the opinion. Created
a hazardous condition. Did they charge him with inciting a riot or something? I mean, it just
I don't know what
no is the answer. The
Yeah.
answer is no. The answer is she's wrong.
Well, of course, all the comments, interesting. When I read this stuff, I always like to read the comments because there are really some brilliant comments. One of them that I liked best was, would it have been considered concealed carry if the guy had gloves on?
Yeah.
That's
Yeah.
so that's it. Now the next stupid thing, Tennessee man sues Popeyes for $5,000 after being unable to get their viral chicken sandwich, as the company's CEO admits he didn't realize that it would break the internet. Now what happened was, apparently they came out with a new chicken sandwich and they unleashed it. And they thought they had enough for everybody. I mean, they had, thousands and all. Well, they got scooped up. It went viral. I mean, it was like and all of a sudden, all over the chat, go down there and get the.
It was the challenge.
Yeah, it was a challenge, right? And so they went down. So he's suing them for $5,000 because he couldn't get his hands on their famous chicken sandwich. He said he filed a lawsuit against the food chain for false advertising and deceptive business practices by the company. He claims to have spent countless hours driving around in an attempt to buy the sandwich, which was released on August 12th, but it was sold out by Wednesday.
Oh my God!
And he was traveling to one location. Wait a minute, it gets better. Here's what Popeyes is also being sued. On Highway 58, he cracked a wheel rim, costing him $1,500. And now so that was.
What TV curmudgeon does this remind you of? I mean, I can't think of it, but there's somebody. And then you cracked my wheel.
Oh, okay.
Because I drove around looking for the thing you offered to sell me.
Yeah.
That's insanity. But you call that a dumb story. I got a dumber one than that.
Okay.
Okay, so
You call my dumb one and up me one.
that's right. So you remember the Israelis had a spacecraft going to the moon recently,
Yeah?
and it crashed. It crashed on the moon.
Did it?
Yes. Now, when it crashed, a portion of its cargo spilled out onto the moon, presumably.
Okay.
Cargo was a few milligrams of tardigrade.
Ooh, life on the moon.
That's right, that's right. And there are actual adults who are actually pissed off that the Israelis inadvertently contaminated the moon with a few milligrams of tardigrades. Okay, and of course, the tardigrade, all they're going to do is freeze and blow away like dust. Like it's not like they're going to evolve.
Well, you say that, you wait.
Yeah,
When
like
the next people
Jurassic
that land
Park.
there,
Yeah, exactly.
Tardigrades.
She's thinking of like the Star Trek Search for Spock or something.
Yeah.
With the planet just transforms after that.
Right.
They're just they're literally on a piece of tape, all of them.
Yeah.
Now, meanwhile, when the Americans went up there in order to make some weight ballast for to take some off of their spacecraft so they could bring back some moon rocks, we left piles of dung up there.
Yeah.
So a few kilograms of that stuff. But no, these people are mad at the tape level of tardigrades.
Well, the one thing is, since there's no atmosphere on the moon, you're not going to have any flies being attracted to the poop
yeah.
because they can't fly.
Right.
So,
well, it's interesting. It's interesting to imagine like 1 million years going by. Okay, after 1 million years, with the tardigrades, I mean, if they were able to move, if they were able to reproduce, could they somehow start to expand in that environment? And I gotta think it's possible. If they could move, it's possible. If they can reproduce in those conditions, then life will find a way. But otherwise, it's going to be like
their energy. They got to get energy from something.
Yeah, exactly.
So that's.
I think they're just going to be sitting up there frozen.
Yeah, I think. And the last thing I've got. Oh, actually, that's not true. I have a couple of things. I'm sorry. Speaking of the moon, Luxembourg, of all places. I've been to Luxembourg. It's like nothing.
Mm-hmm.
It's a small little place. In 2016, Luxembourg is about this. I don't know what it is. A couple hundred square miles is all it is. So it's one of the little tiny ones.
Yeah.
Announced an ambitious initiative to mine asteroids for valuable stuff. Now, for what they call the near-Earth objects of rare minerals. In the 1980s, it launched some of the first European satellites, but the NEO mining plan represented a bold step for a country with a population of Milwaukee. Had roots. They talk about the roots and everything, but pivoted. They've done for many years now. After they ran out of their coal or whatever they had, you could go there and get a bank. You could, that was one of the places where you could do your secret banking. Mm-hmm. If you couldn't go into Switzerland, you went to Luxembourg, and it accounts financial stuff accounts for 35% of its GDP. So it's quite a bit. So it's apparently NASA and the Japanese people they've launched probes to explore the composition of nearby asteroids. And Japan's, whatever it is, number 2, landed on the surface of the asteroid Ryugu after a nearly 5-year, 5.5 million mile journey. But I think it took the long way.
Okay.
I think it circled all around and everything. It didn't go direct, I don't think. Because 5.5 million miles, I don't think that would take you 5 years. So anyway, another one arrived at the asteroid Bennu last December and is currently in orbit around the 500 meter thick space rock while scientists decide where to land. So there are an online database of about 600,000 asteroids with the potential value of their minerals, and Ryugu is estimated to be worth $83 billion in minerals if you could mine them. So maybe that's what they're going to do. It's interesting. People talk about shooting for the moon. I mean, you got these asteroids that could be very well have all kinds of neat stuff on them. I thought it was pretty good.
Yeah.
I've got another note here on. We're just about in. Have you got something else?
Let me check.
I got Ruth Bader Ginsburg and I got Deborah Messing.
Oh yeah, I had the Deborah Messing thing.
I thought this was a little. She's real pretty, even though she's flat as a board, and she's good. But she's calling. She wants to out. She wants to know who the people are that are attending the Trump thing, and she wants to out. The Trump plans to attend the September 17th fundraiser in Beverly Hills, and what she wants to do is to. I think what she said.
She wants to boycott anybody who.
She calls for Trump supporters to be outed, right? So they can boycott any of the people that show up there.
Yeah,
I'm thinking, this
sounds like career suicide. I mean, if you don't mix those two streams like that. Like this, you got your work and you got your politics. and you can keep them entirely separate, and you don't have to mix them like that. And to do that is, it's like she's boycotting people in her own industry.
Right.
It's like the first salvo of the war. We're going to shoot all the separatists. Well, okay, but
Well, what's interesting about it, in a way, is let's assume for the moment, because the tickets are up to, I don't know how much they are, $100,000. They can be that much. So there's going to be some people, some Hollywood people that are going to go. You know, Clint Eastwood or somebody. I mean, there's a couple of Hollywood people that are known conservatives or libertarians,
yeah.
and they could go. Now,
Go
to this thing.
what thing?
It's a fundraiser. It is Trump plans to attend a September 17th fundraiser in Beverly Hills during a trip to California. They will also include San Francisco and so forth, The Hollywood Reporter. Tickets for the Beverly Hills event scheduled during the week of the Emmy Awards will reportedly start at $1,000 and go for couples and costing as much as $100,000. Now, so this is an event that's going to be all that big a deal, and she wants to have some spies in there. I guess they're going to have the paparazzi, film everybody that goes in there, whatever it is. And I'm asking myself, does this mean you won't work with them at all? I mean, if let's say,
that's what it.
I mean, I'm sitting there thinking, here you are, you're an actress, okay, and you're a famous actress or whatever it is, and suddenly you find out that this guy went to the party.
Yeah.
And now you're on they're put together a film, and you're the heroine, and this other guy is the thing. And she said, "I'm not working with him. He's a Trump." I'm going. Are you nuts?
It's career suicide.
It is career suicide. Not only is it, when I think about it, it reminds me of the old days. Not in Hollywood, but in some places, 40 years ago, when somebody came out as gay, you might not work with them or something, or that was a stigma.
This is like the blacklisting of the freaking McCarthy era.
Yeah.
I mean, she wants to call them out for their political views,
right,
and she wants them blacklisted. And it's like, what are you talking about? That's kid stuff. I mean, that's juvenile. That's ridiculous. And hopefully she'll get called out on it. It's just all you can.
I'd like to see.
Yeah. Okay, real quick. Let's see. Okay, another real quick legal updates. R. Kelly, you know who he is?
No, not
so
really.
he's a singer.
Okay.
And he's been long accused of fooling around with underage girls.
Okay.
And the bottom line is, it's pretty well known, and he's pretty well guilty.
Okay.
But they've now decided to prosecute him for the stuff.
Really?
And in the meantime, they're holding him in jail. But because they can't control the jails and they can't protect him because he's an accused pedophile, the same way that Jeffrey Epstein was, they can't protect him in general population. So what do? They keep him in solitary confinement. And so basically, they're torturing the guy.
I mean, anybody will tell you that solitary confinement is torture.
It's the place where they put the people who are being bad. Like, that's the threat to the other prisoners. If you do something wrong, you go into this holding cell. But they're holding him there just for his protection, because they can't protect him any other way. So just a small indication of the condition of our jails when you lament the situation at the border.
Yeah.
Here's a guy who's presumed innocent, and he's being kept 23 hours a day in solitary confinement. An American citizen, a wealthy American citizen. So that's
really unbelievable in a way, because you would think that
he's allowed one 15-minute phone call per month.
And about guilty.
And he basically, now R. Kelly is also barely literate.
Oh, is that right?
Yeah. So he's having a very difficult time communicating with his attorney, because they have to be separated, and they can't basically communicate in an open environment like with two guys in a table. Like, no, he's got to be handcuffed to something. Yeah, or whatever, or yeah, and he can't read the documents that kind of stuff. So
They really are. God, this is Kafkaesque.
it is. So it's just interesting, though.
I mean, don't get me wrong. I understand pedophilia and all that kind of stuff.
Yeah, I know.
But seriously, this is.
But he's not getting a fair shake here, basically. So, I mean, he did it. He's guilty. They're going to find out. But still, in the meantime, this is horrific. Also, another horrifying legal update. There was a girl we reported on a while back who took a picture of herself. She's underage,
Okay.
and she sexted it to another boy.
Mm-hmm.
And then it got out.
Mm-hmm.
And
How long ago? This is a long time ago.
yeah, and they charged her with possession of child pornography, of having pictures of herself.
Okay.
So it's gone through the courts now, and the Maryland Supreme Court upheld the conviction.
God. Oh my God! You got to be kidding me.
No, and
Oh my God.
yeah. So we'll see now. There may be a little more to the story. One cautionary thing is that at least one of the pictures she sent had another had a boy in it. At least parts of the boy, if you can imagine. So they may have upheld the conviction on the grounds that it was that boy, the exposure of that boy. But I don't think so. I think it had to do with the girl herself. So
Jesus.
they basically said, because I read part of the ruling and it said we will not distinguish between her possessing it and
as the country goes down the shitter.
Yep. And the final thing is, you remember Cheech and Chong?
Yeah.
Shoot the seals.
No.
Save those big fat funky whales. Shoot the seals. So that was a theme song that Cheech and Chong used to sing.
Oh, is that right?
Yeah, it was a Save the Whales song.
Okay.
But part of it was Shoot the Seals.
Okay.
So they're considering shooting seals up in New England now.
Oh, is that right?
Yeah, because they've had since the 1970s a moratorium on seal hunting.
Right.
The population has grown from practically none up to 50,000.
Okay.
And now they're decimating the fish population. And they're attracting sharks to the beaches.
Yes, I saw that part. Sharks, yeah.
So they've decided that the one way they might be able to prevent the sharks from coming in is to cull a few tens of thousands of seals.
Right.
Needless to say, there's a couple people who are upset about the whole thing.
Yeah.
But
I mean, if seal meat could work.
well, that's what I'm saying. They were hunted before.
Yeah.
So why don't you just open hunting season?
Open hunting season for a while. Yeah, you gotta. I mean, you get yourself a 300-pound seal. That's some good eating there someplace.
I don't know if they grow that big, but
100. I don't care.
yeah. Look, if they were hunted before, they can be hunted again.
That's right.
Hey, thanks for joining us, everybody. This has been the Jimmy Doane Show. We appreciate it. We are live twice a week these days at 4 o'clock. We'll be back on Wednesday. We appreciate the music here coming from Kevin MacLeod.
Now that's of course that the hurricane does not suddenly make another twist and head over this way.
Yes, we could be blown out on Wednesday, and it is entirely possible. So we'll see. If we're not here, then don't find us.
Yeah.
So I'm Council Curtis. This is the Jimmy Doane Show. We'll see you soon.